Halo is a series synonymous with video gaming folklore. Responsible for genre-defining gameplay and storytelling, the original Halos 1, 2 and 3 were seminal moments in the history of the industry. However, the departure from the sure hand of its creator Bungie, he looks very similar to a certain character in a game that has links to, has left fans and critics scratching their heads at the direction 343 have taken the Halo franchise. Full disclosure for this review, I have never played a Halo game previously. This is my first Halo and my first foray into the single player and multiplayer of Halo. I have no emotional connection, good or bad, or preconceived notions, good or bad, about 343 or Halo. I will say this, however, having watched Halo from afar for all these years, I couldn't help but feel a large sense of expectation. I wanted the game to completely sweep me away. I wanted to feel what everyone else has felt over the last 20 years or so. Cool quick story about Halo before I continue. I was one of the first ever people to actually play Halo at an Xbox reveal in England many years ago when they first brought the Xbox to the UK. Enough of that boring story though. Originally meant to be a launch title with the next-gen Xbox launch, a controversial initial reveal led to the game being delayed. Introducing open world concepts, a free multiplayer, and an attempt to reconnect with its roots, can Halo Infinite be infinitely better than 343's previous attempts? Let's find out by getting lost in the world of Zeta Halo. Heavily criticised on initial reveal for its poor graphics, the full product delivers and then some. The enclosed environments, open world, and sound effects are all top notch. Playing in 2K on the PC, I had no performance issues other than the odd memory leak, which a quick restart would fix quite easily. The special effects from the guns are vibrant and crisp, the music is haunting and epic in equal measure, all at the right times. However, the stylistic delivery of the game isn't without criticism. The game suffers from a feeling of more of the same, and that is for a variety of reasons. From a graphical point of view, the main issue is the tile sets that are used. The whole of the open world is basically this: green, bit of forest with the odd base capture, and the whole indoor space is basically this: metallic forerunner, spire type place with a metallic feel, often using the same layout. Well, it's hard to tell, but it all just looked so familiar. This is one of the few issues regarding variety that Halo Infinite has, but more on that later. Overall, though, graphically, it's a beautiful game. However, it just felt so samey a lot of the time. Sonically, it's great. The music's fantastic. That original Halo theme is so spine-tinglingly good. It really gets the goosebumps and the hair standing on the back of your neck. The voice acting of Master Chief is fantastic.
We protect humanity, whatever the cost.
But this wasn't the mission.
The mission's changed. They always do.
The weapon is also really good.
Is there a problem?
Of course not.
Master Chief is just such a badass character, really. You know, he's everything I would want from Master Chief. When you hear about Master Chief, you hear about other kind of fans talking about Master Chief. You know, he was everything I expected and then some. He was brilliant as a main character.
This ring will be operational.
So they're trying to get a Halo ring back up. I think I need to watch a video about the Halo story timeline. So I can because they haven't really done an explanation of it, I feel like. Okay, so my previous experience of the Halo story was YouTube videos. I'd done a bit of background research on the previous story, but honestly, I'd kind of expected Infinite to give me the key information I needed to fully appreciate this story. But it never did. This left me a bit lost, no pun intended. I felt like I didn't quite connect with the story or the emotions Master Chief was feeling in relation to Cortana. Add to this, the story just doesn't seem well delivered. It just felt like, despite starting on a kind of clean slate, enough isn't really done to bring new players up to speed with the nuances of the backstory leading up to this story. The introductory hour of the Halo Infinite campaign underscores 343's decision to create as close to a blank slate as possible. Halo Infinite effectively opens at the end of a story that they haven't actually told yet, and you actually begin the game 18 months later, after the conclusion from Halo 5. Again, I never played Halo 5, but that's basically where it starts, and I had to do a bit of reading on this to kind of get this part. But it's kind of done in a way where 343 are like, oh yeah, well, here's a blank slate, welcome to Halo. And here's a ton of stuff referring to the last 20 years of Halo games, which we're not going to bother explaining. This means that there's a lot of stuff that has happened in that 18-month gap, but also the previous Halos that is key to getting a full understanding of Infinite's campaign. And honestly, I feel 343 do an awful job of allowing new players in on any of this info and helping them piece it together. Even worse, Infinite seems to set up something coming further in the future at the cost of the story of this game in the present. And that is never a good thing. Just to reel off a quick list of where I felt it just didn't quite click together. I mean, it kind of comes together in the end, I guess, but as a new player, you're kind of always guessing, what happened to Cortana? Did I miss that? Did that happen in the previous games? I feel that wasn't really flag posted enough or signposted enough. Why are we deleting or replacing it? Again, that comes from previous games. It's pieced together eventually, but to a new player, you're just lost for large parts of that kind of, that kind of arc of that story. Atriox, why didn't he just kill Master Chief? I mean, people talk about plot armor and they criticize plot armor. Did this guy literally had Master Chief dead? He didn't kill him and just threw him out in space for someone to recover him. What are the Harbingers, Bingers, whatever they're called, the Endless? I mean, in the end, it comes out, but I was just like asking all the time, who are the Endless? Like, where have they just been conjured up from? And they mention the Forerunners all the time, but someone who's never played Halo, who the hell are the Forerunners? I mean, I got it from watching YouTube videos, but they shouldn't leave it up to that. There's some other stuff, but, I just didn't feel plugged into the story of Infinite as much as I'd like to be. I like to emotionally resonate with stories, and, Master Chief's having all these, emotional scenes about Cortana and the past, and I just didn't connect with them all because 343 didn't really allow me to. I do have to say, though, again, like I said previously when talking about the sound of the game, what a great character Master Chief is. Brilliantly voice acting, oozing authority and leadership. Master Chief is the bona fide superstar and lead character of Halo that I wanted him to be. However, the main bad guy in this game is forgettable.
Greater good. I pity you that I was correct. The House of Reckoning. Such an appropriate name. Many of your kind have entered this arena. None have left.
The main plot of this game is not even dealt with in the end. The final boss fight is just more of the same of all the other boss fights. Unshield, shoot, run away, unshield, shoot. There's one fight with a mechanic in it, but honestly, the boss fights are largely forgettable, in all honesty, and none of the characters stand out at all, in my eyes anyway. And that's about it really on the story. I mean, overall, I guess it sets up the Infinite kind of plan that they've got for the game. It's not too dissimilar to the Bungie 10-year plan. I feel like Infinite's going to be very similar, where they're going to keep adding DLCs and story to it to progress the story. But the story as is feels just not complete. It feels kind of rushed. It feels like it could have been padded out a bit more, especially to help new players. Overall, the story was passable, is where I'd leave that.
Another disabled door. I'll say one thing for the Banished. When they have an idea, they stick with it.
It's funny because they say the same thing about 343 Studios, which is ironic, really. Yeah. Who knows, man? Maybe 343 are the Banished. Right, so let's talk about the game flow. Now, I use the term game flow to describe not only the gameplay, but the flow of the game. That's the term, Gameflow. However, I've not played a game in a long time that had such a massive discrepancy between the gameplay and the flow of the game. The gameplay in Halo is just straight up fantastic. The sandbox is fun. The whole open world is a massive playground to enjoy the sandbox 343 give you. Grappling weapons off weapon racks to blast someone in the face, to kicking an elite out of a Banshee midair, to grappling an enemy and shotgunning them on the way in, to throwing your grapple and kicking someone out of a spaceship and then shooting the other people. Mix this in with the fantastic gunplay, and it is a joy to play on a minute-to-minute combat basis. However, retrieve the sequence data, 1 out of 4. Oh, where is it, brother? How far away? You are... No, you're not serious. Oh my, is this mission design for... What is this mission design? Good lord. This is so generic. Here's what a Halo Infinite mission basically looks like. You go to A. A is either stuck or locked or needs power. You then go to X, Y, and Z to unlock it or progress. The further you get into the game, the larger the distance between A and X, Y, and Z. Even the indoor areas, which, as mentioned previously, all have the exact same looking design, consist of go to a door, it's locked, go find a battery, go find 2 batteries, go find 3 batteries, plug them into the door. I know they wanted to bring back some old school Halo, but I didn't realize they were bringing back game design from 2002. 1-7. Today we are flying to one of 3 beacons. Estimated travel time about 6 minutes, though on foot it would have been about 3 hours. Once we do the 3 beacons, we'll continue our journey to 6 other energy nodes to power up the beacons. Then from there, we shall go to 2 more elevators, which will need powering with 3 further. Now, the crazy thing about all of this is the sandbox is so good, it just kind of masks all these inadequacies in the game. But then people told me about Halo having amazing set pieces, and I can't remember one. I mean, guys, look, getting in a tank and just driving down, like, you know, area with other machines in it and shooting them is done in every game now. That isn't a set piece to me. That's just standard stuff now. And the bosses also follow a very similar basic design, which is that they just basically rush you. You grapple away to get away from the melee, then you shoot them to get rid of their shields, then you shoot them to do some damage. They then regen the shields in the next phase, and you run away, you shoot the shields, shoot them when the shields are down, and run away, and they die. I mean, there's not much more to it. They're just very, very generic. I didn't see anything special about the boss fights. They're kind of in cool areas, but kind of, I guess, but that's about it. And as I said previously in the story, the main bad guy is forgettable. He just kind of grumbles at you and shouts at you, and he has a bad cough, supposedly. And his final boss fight is a light mechanic in it. But, you know, it's, again, nothing special. But again, the crazy thing is, the gameplay is so good, it mostly masks all these deficiencies. Onto the open world, the side missions are all just marked on the map. Everything's marked on the map, so there's no sense of discovery at all. The open world mostly feels lifeless and barren. Halo should never feel like a Ubisoft game, but honestly, this is bordering on that at times. The game feels incomplete or just the building block for something in the future, and that is what the Infinite in the game title seems to suggest, but I can only review what is in front of me, and that's this game that plays brilliantly, but plays out pretty averagely. Oh my god, do you know how much fun this sandbox is? It's ridiculous. Like, this shouldn't be this fun. Okay, so first let me say this. I still believe Halo was released too early. I'm sure eventually, one day, the full story will come to light about the production of Halo and what happened with it. But this game still feels rushed. Mission design, storytelling, lack of playlist in multiplayer, lack of maps in multiplayer, no co-op in single player, no Forge. And it is, on release, kind of a bare bones experience. I came into Halo hoping to be wowed by my first Halo experience, and maybe those were unrealistic expectations considering the inconsistency with which 343 has delivered Halo games since it took over, according to the wider Halo community. But Halo Infinite is reviewed here on its own merits in all aspects. It is a fun single player experience with glaring flaws and a fantastic multiplayer experience with glaring omissions. Now, I'm going to review this game in 3 different ways. One is the single player, one is the multiplayer, and one is the full package should you choose to get the full package. It's important to note that the multiplayer is free to play but doesn't come if you buy the Halo single player campaign, so it is kind of like an optional extra which you can get, but that's why I'm going to give it 3 marks. Sadly, like many games, Halo seems released with one eye in the future. As a foundation, it shows promise. As a full price game, I believe it is lacking. For me, the single player Halo experience gets a light 7, the multiplayer experience gets a decent to strong 8, with my overall score for the full price Halo experience with the multiplayer rolled in at a strong 7. That's my final opinion on this version of Halo, which is the first version of Halo Infinite. I believe there's going to be many more iterations and many more DLCs, add-ons coming to the game in the future. Overall, kind of left slightly underwhelmed by Halo. I was definitely expecting more, but it's been fun and it has given me probably my favorite multiplayer game in a very, very long time. That's my thoughts on Halo Infinite. Thank you for listening and watching. Take care. Let me know what your thoughts are on Halo Infinite, what score you would give it, where it ranks in the list of Halo games. Take care, peace out, and look after yourselves.